Okay. Hey everyone, hopefully this will work. I have a very makeshift recording system going on here. But anyway, this is my lovely office and where I will be reading from today. There are animals around here as well as my son playing outside, so I don't know if you'll be able to hear that or not. But if you do hear some yelling and screaming and everything, that's him playing. Okay, so today you guys voted to hear some of the prequel bonus short story Lucky Logan. So that is what I will be reading today. I'm not going to read the whole thing since it is supposed to be a bonus story that only people who bought the ebook before March 23rd are supposed to get. So this will only be a sneak peek for people who haven't maybe gotten the ebook yet. But I did think, since I didn't really ever come up with like an official back cover blurb for this short story or anything, I'm going to go ahead and read probably the first 2 chapters from it now, and then I will re-enable the bonus download link in the ebook. So if you have not gotten the ebook of Bargain at Bravebank yet, then I will go ahead and reactivate the bonuses for a very limited time after this reading, so you could go grab your copy now if you haven't got it yet, and you can get those bonuses. But this is going to be very limited. Probably like I'll only activate it for maybe like an extra day or 2. So if you are, the cat is hopefully not going to knock everything over. Anyway, if you are watching this and you listen to the chapters and you're like, dang, that sounds interesting. I'd like to get that bonus story, but I haven't bought the ebook yet of Bargain at Bravebank. Then that is the only way to get this story. Very limited time, like I said. Download the ebook of Bargain at Bravebank, and then you will get this short story as a bonus free download, as well as a colorized map, and then 2 art pieces of the characters. So, anyway, I should stop blabbing now and actually read. So here we go. Once again, this is Lucky Logan. It is a prequel short story. It happens 41 years before Bargain at Bravebank, and it follows Logan Delano, who is Van's father. Okay, so here we go, and hopefully the cat will not ruin everything. We'll see. Okay. Chapter 1. The Train to Memphis. That was the problem with these here southern states. Hang on. That reminds me, I need to silence my phone. Okay, and there is the cat. Cat butt. Alright, seriously, kitty. This is my spot. Mine. My spot. Goodness sakes. Okay, here we go. All right, phone is silenced. Cat is out, partially out of the way. Okay. Ow! Good Lord. Good Lord. This is a mess. A mess, you guys. This is how it's been between the cats and the child and the small dog and the husband. Okay. Let's try again, shall we? Chapter 1. The Train to Memphis. That was the problem with these here southern states. There were just too many damn trees. Trees awful close to the tracks of the eastbound train headed for Memphis. And occasionally, every now and then, one of them would fall right over those tracks. And then that train, full up with paying customers, couldn't go nowhere. Just how Kill-em-all Paul Johnson and the rest of his gang liked it. Logan sat quiet astride Dollar, his buckskin gilding, atop a bluff overlooking the tracks, watching as the big steam engine squealed to a stop below. He smiled. Paul's plan was working to perfection, just like it always did. That's the cat. Of course, the train's armed escort would be suspicious of the tree fall, as they should, but Paul had a plan for them, too. Logan glanced to his right, to the newest member of the Johnson boys. A scrawny kid named Holt, 2 years his junior. He laid flat on his belly on the top of the bluff, the sharpshooting rifle cradled in his arms, just about as big as he was. "Sure you can handle that thing, Junior?" Logan asked, pitching his voice low so it wouldn't carry down to the folk in the train below. The kid paused in lining up his shot and turned his head just a fraction, one bright blue eye regarding Logan with a sour disapproval. "Told ya," he hissed. "My name ain't Junior. The name is Holt." Logan's grin stretched wider. "Yeah, I know." Holt scowled and turned his attention back to the train below. That clear blue eye looked down his scope. Slowly, he pulled the hammer back. "You just do your job and I'll do mine," he muttered. Logan followed the sight of Holt's rifle and saw small figures clambering out of the engine. They leaned up against the train for some supposed cover, moving slowly toward the big tree blocking their way, their own guns held ready. He gave Holt a nod. "Sure thing, kid." He turned Dollar away from the ridge and headed down the other side, listening for the chaos to start. He still kinda itched to pull his bandana up over his face, but Paul didn't like none of his boys doing that. Said hiding your face made you a coward, that you only needed to hide your face if you planned to run, or to leave someone behind who might remember it. And Paul didn't leave no one alive behind when he did a job. There was a reason his boys called him Kill 'em all Paul. The law, on the other hand, well, the law didn't know what to call him, on account of him never leaving behind any live witnesses. And that was just the way Paul and the rest of his gang liked that, too. The crack of Holt's rifle marked the beginning of it and made Dollar start and jump a little sideways, throwing up his head. Birds took off from the trees above, crying out their indignation at the disturbance. Logan pressed his heels to his gelding's sides and it picked up into a trot. He headed for the tracks. By the time he reached them, Holt should have taken care of a good portion of the armed escort, and the other boys taken care of most of the rest of it inside the train itself, as well as blocked off most of the car's exits so those paying customers couldn't get skittish and try to run. Never mind there weren't nothing around for miles and miles except wilderness and some backwater woods folk. Paul wouldn't take any chances with anyone getting away. That's what Holt and Archie were for, too, just in case. Their long rifles would make short work of anyone the other boys missed. But Logan, he was headed for the mail car, usually toward the back. Usually the car holding the most valuables. It'd be the most guarded, of course, but probably some of those fellas had headed toward the front of the train to investigate Holt's shot, making his job a mite easier. A flurry of gunfire erupted into the woods just then, and Dollar snorted and pricked up his ears, but Logan stayed calm atop him, so he stayed steady on toward the tracks. By the time Logan reached him, the chaos had started all right. In fact, it was raging full bore. Luckily for him, most of it was concentrated up around the front of the train. He saw some of his fellows at the doors of the passenger cars down his way, and they exchanged nods as he reined up the buckskin and dismounted. Shouted orders rang out between the gunfire, both from his side and the other side. Screaming followed, and wailing and then some sobbing. All standard fare for a job like this. Logan didn't much like pulling jobs with so many people around needing to be silenced, but then, the take from this train alone would set up the boys for a nice few months of comfortable living, and he didn't much mind that part of it. So, he looped Dollar's reins around the nearest tree, making sure it was a safe distance away from danger. He pulled a few sticks of dynamite from his saddlebags, then headed toward the mail car, right in front of the caboose. He shucked both pistols real quick and checked their loads, then, satisfied, quickened his pace and threw his back up against the side of the train. There'd been no shots fired his way on his approach, and things were mighty quiet down here on this end. He glanced down the way to good old Bill, one of the older boys, who was standing guard at the last car's exit and the nearest to Logan's own position, and signaled a silent question. "All clear?" Bill jerked a thumb toward the car he watched and nodded, then pointed to the caboose and nodded, and then the mail car and shook his head, holding up 4 fingers. Logan swore under his breath, but then Bill drew a thumb across his neck and signaled 2. Logan exhaled and gave a nod, relieved. 2 against 1 were much better odds. Still, if the 2 still left alive or holed up in the mail car, which had locks on its doors and no windows, he'd be a fool to charge in, even with guns blazing. They'd have had time to set up nice and cozy by now, and he didn't know what might be waiting on the other side of that door. And he couldn't spend all this money the gang was collecting if he was dead. He gestured at Bill to exchange weapons. Bill rolled his eyes, but agreed. He handed over his sawed-off shotgun, and Logan traded him a six-gun. Good old Bill didn't much like taking orders from a 15-year-old, but Logan had been with Paul 3 more years than Bill, and killed 10 more men than Bill. So Bill did what Logan asked, and didn't question much. Logan nodded his Logan nodded his appreciation to the man and gave another signal. Stand clear. Dynamite. Bill lifted his brows, then passed the signal down the line so none of the other boys would be surprised. Though likely, none of them would be. Least, none of them who'd been with Paul for a train job before. Using dynamite to open the mail cars was Logan's usual fare, especially when there were tough, armed and angry men still holed up inside. He went around to the back of the car, lit the fuse on one stick, balanced it atop the door handle, and then turned and high-tailed it down the track. He stopped about 20 feet away and clapped his hands over his ears, bracing himself, and right about then came the boom. A fresh chorus of screams and wailing came after it, but the sharp reports of gunfire up and down the train started silencing them, one by one. Logan blocked it all out. He had one job, and one job only. He turned and sprinted his way back to the car, drawing the shotgun as he went. He leapt up onto the car's connector and shouldered into the door. The lock and a good chunk of the door around it had been blown to pieces, and Logan barged through it easily enough, emerging on the other side through acrid smoke like a wraith. He saw vague shapes through the haze in the light of the one oil lamp, crumpled and stunned. The sawed-off shotgun barked twice, ensuring those 2 men wouldn't get up again. Then Logan waited, quiet and ready, but nothing else moved. Satisfied, he moved through the car to the opposite door and unlocked it, pulled it open. He waved at the smoke in the air and coughed. His eyes watered, and he wanted again to pull his bandana up over his nose and mouth, at least to keep the smoke out of his lungs. But he didn't. He didn't want Paul to catch him like that. It would have made Paul start asking questions, and you never wanted Paul to start asking you questions. Not those kind of questions. So Logan only stepped out into the fresh air on the other side of the mail car, breathed deep, and gave Bill a wave. The man nodded and tossed Logan a salute, then moved on down toward the front of the train. Most of the passengers had been dealt with by now. There weren't many to worry about escaping anymore. Logan went to his buckskin and pulled the rolled burlap sacks off the saddle, shook them out, and marched back to the mail car to start loading up the loot. By the time he'd stepped back inside the car, the smoke had cleared out. He searched the bodies of the 2 men first, pocketed a nice watch, some cigarettes, a few bucks. He took their pistols too, throwing them into one of his sacks. Then he went straight for the safe. It was always better to go for the big stuff first, just in case things went to hell. At least then you could get out with enough to make the trouble worth your while. At least, that was the hope. And this safe was only padlocked, not one of those infernal combination locks. It'd be an easy take. Logan drew the shotgun again and stepped to the side, taking aim. The subtle creak of metal from behind him made him whirl around instead, taking aim at something entirely different than the lock of a safe. His finger froze on the trigger an instant before he squeezed. The women froze in the doorway of the passenger car. There were 2 of them. The older of them was in front, her entire body going rigid as she realized he'd seen them, that he aimed right for her chest. The younger of them stood slightly behind, her blue eyes some of the palest Logan had ever seen, and so wide, so terrified. She couldn't have been but a few years older than he. His breath caught. Where the hell had they come from? Bill had said that car was clear. Had they somehow hidden themselves well enough he'd missed them? Or had Bill found them and gone soft, deciding to let them live, thinking 2 women left alone in the woods couldn't be much threat? The only problem was, 2 living women still had eyes to see with and mouths to speak with, and if they ever did happen to find their way back to civilization, that sure as shit would spell trouble for the Johnson boys. And Logan, especially. They'd seen him now. They were staring straight at him, hard and unblinking. Memorizing his face, most like. Logan swallowed. His fingers tightened around the grip of the shotgun, his palms sweaty. In his 15 years he'd killed 12 men, but he'd never killed a woman before. The end of chapter 1. Okay, so that is it for today, but like I said, I think I will read one more chapter from this bonus short story. If you already have an ebook copy of Bargain at Bravebank, there is actually a link to download this story yourself on your own Kindle in the back of that book. And if you have not gotten the ebook of Bargain at Bravebank yet, then I have reactivated the bonuses for a very limited time. So now would be the chance. If you go download that, then you will also have the link to download the bonus story in the back of your ebook. Otherwise, that link will go away here in the next day or two, and then the only way to get it, well, there won't be any way to get it, I guess. Possibly with book 2, I might make it be available for download again, but I'm not sure yet. So basically, if you want this bonus story for yourself, now would be the time to get the ebook of Bargain at Bravebank. Otherwise, I'm not going to make it available anywhere else. It will not be on Amazon. It will not be given to my patrons. I won't even be going to my mailing list. So this is a very special sneak peek reading because, yeah, the story is not going to be available anywhere else pretty much. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope that reading did not suck despite all the crazy stuff going on. And thank you all for voting on which story you wanted to hear, and thank you for watching or listening to this reading. Like I said, hopefully it wasn't terrible. I am trying to do more of this so I get better at it. Obviously, I can never do it as well as Roger did, so if you want to hear his awesome rendition of Bargain at Bravebank, the audiobook is available right now. I know for sure it is on Kobo, Scribd, Google Play, and what's the other one? Oh, Chirp. So those 4 places I know for sure it is available. It's also available at your local library. If you look there, you should be able to get it there. And I think that's about it. It's not on Audible yet. If you want it on Audible, please email their customer service and ask. I have also emailed to ask what the heck is the holdup. So we'll see what happens. But if you get it from Google Play, fun fact, I'll actually get more of the royalties if you get it from Google Play than if you would get it on Audible. And also the cost of it is only like $11.95, which is actually less than a credit on Audible. So cool, win-win. Just a little fun fact, throwing that out there. Anyway, thank you again, everyone, for coming and listening and watching and voting and chatting with me on Instagram. I really enjoy that, and I hope you will stick around, and I will read another chapter of this story here in a little while. I'm not sure exactly when. Maybe a day or two, maybe next week, but before too long. So anyway, thank you again, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!